Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. आज की फ्लाइट में आप सबका स्वागत है। हमारा क्रू आपका बहुत ख्याल रखेगा, लेकिन आपसे एक निवेदन है कि अपनी चोली टाइटली बांध लें ताकि दिल बाहर ना गिर जाए।
Stood in the corridor of the university, the wide, open space beneath me sprawling out like a stage, with the students below none the wiser to what was about to unfold. 𝘏𝘈𝘔 and 𝐿𝐥𝐸 stood just behind me, their silence solid as a promise. I leaned against the sleek railing, my gaze drifting over the crowds gathered on the lower level. From up here, I could see everything, the students moving about. Just then, my eyes caught sight of a group of students down below, carefully assembling a large poster. My heart skipped, and my lips curved into a knowing smirk as the words slowly came into view. Happy birthday, Jane. Oh, how adorable. They were oblivious, weren't they? They thought this was going to be some grand, sweet gesture. Little did they know, today was the beginning of the final round, the final play in this game I had been crafting for months. My gaze locked onto 𝘏𝘕 as he appeared, making his way toward the center of the crowd. He was holding a massive bouquet of flowers in one hand, and in the other, something far more predictable, a small velvet box, the classic bullshit engagement ring. I noticed Jimin and J-Hope standing off to the side. They weren't even trying to hide their smirks. They knew what was coming, too. 𝘏𝘕 bent down on one knee, and at that precise moment, the students holding the banner flipped it around, revealing a new message: will you be my life partner? He opened the ring box, the sunlight catching the glint of the diamond inside, and extended it toward me. Will you be my life partner, Jane? Just say yes and I will wait for you until you are ready, he asked, loud enough for everyone to hear. The crowd went wild, gasps, murmurs, and the start of cheers filling the air as students pressed in closer. Fools, all of them. I smiled down at 𝘏𝘕, and for a split second, he smiled back, thinking he had won. He expected me to run down there, throw my arms around him, and accept his pathetic proposal. But that wasn't what was about to happen. I turned slowly to 𝘏𝘈𝘔 and 𝐿𝐥𝐸 beside me, who were standing at the ready, buckets of ice-cold water in hand. I gave them a single nod. Without hesitation, they tipped the buckets forward, and 2 torrents of freezing water came pouring down onto 𝘏𝘕. The effect was immediate. The entire crowd gasped in unison, their collective shock ringing through the air. 𝘏𝘕 froze, drenched from head to toe, his flowers soaked and limp, the ring box slipping from his wet fingers. His face twisted in confusion as he looked up at me, water dripping from his hair and clothes. I straightened, clapping slowly. Laughter bubbled up from my chest, and I didn't hold it back. The scene was so perfect, so satisfying. 𝘏𝘕's eyes met mine, and he blinked. Jane, his voice was hoarse, desperate. What was that? I leaned forward, grabbing the microphone that was conveniently connected to the speaker system. Oh, poor 𝘏𝘕, I said, my tone laced with mock sympathy. This was just to wake you up from your little dream, darling. How could you even think you could get me? His face went pale as the reality of the situation finally sank in, the shock evident in every line of his expression. The laughter around him grew as the crowd slowly started to realize what had just happened, and I reveled in his humiliation. I tilted my head, letting the words sink in further before adding. Wow, you really thought I'd date you for more than a year. Look at you, and now look at me. The students around him were no longer gasping in surprise, they were smirking, some even pulling out their phones to record the scene. 𝘏𝘕. I clicked my tongue, the sound loud and sharp through the speakers. Did you really think this cheap high school drama stunt would work? Flowers, a ring, proposing in front of everyone. How desperate are you? The crowd's laughter grew louder, phones raised higher to capture every angle of his embarrassment. His lips moved, but no words came out. His shock was too deep, his pride shattered beyond repair. He looked at me like he couldn't recognize who I had become. But this was me, the real me, the one who had waited years for this perfect moment. Oh, and that ring, I continued, feigning pity as I pointed down at the little velvet box now lying on the wet ground. You thought that could win me over. Please, 𝘏𝘕, I wouldn't wear that cheap thing if it was the last piece of jewelry on earth. Maybe give it to one of your little fangirls, I'm sure they'd be thrilled to have your scraps. More laughter erupted from the crowd, and the sound of camera shutters clicking filled the air. I clapped my hands one last time, slowly and deliberately. Everyone, give a round of applause to our dear 𝘏𝘕, who thought he could make me his life partner. I rolled my eyes at the very thought. Congratulations, 𝘏𝘕, you've just been played. As the crowd's applause and laughter grew louder, I dropped the microphone, we descended the stairs with deliberate steps, the tension in the air palpable as 𝘏𝘈𝘔, 𝐿𝐥𝐸, and I led the way. J-Hope and Jimin flanked us, joining in stride as we moved. towards Soo-jin, who was still standing there, soaked and humiliated, with wide eyes scanning the scene around him. Soo-jin saw us coming, and in a moment of desperation, he stepped forward, his voice trembling with rage and humiliation. "How dare you?" Before he could finish, J-Hope and Jimin moved in front of me, blocking his path, their presence enough to halt him in his tracks. His eyes shifted nervously between the two of them, and as they stared him down, I took another step forward, smirking as I leaned in just enough that only Soo-jin could hear my words. "Soo-jin, you still don't get it, do you? This isn't even close to the payback you deserve for what you did to me." His face twisted in confusion, and for a moment, "What I did to you? Jane, what are you talking about?" I clicked my tongue and shook my head, a sly smile creeping onto my lips. "Tisk tisk, you really don't recognize me, do you? Or maybe, it's that you don't want to remember. Master Kim Soo-jin." The instant those words left my mouth, his eyes widened in shock, and he froze. His body went rigid as if all the air had been sucked out of him. He whispered, almost in disbelief. "Soo-yin." Hearing her name made something inside me snap. My hand curled into a tight fist, and before he could react, I slapped him, hard. The sound echoed between us, his head snapping to the side, and I leaned in, my voice dripping with venom. "Don't you dare say her name with your filthy mouth." He blinked, his shock even more profound now. He touched his cheek, slowly turning back to face me, and this time, his voice was weaker, filled with disbelief. "Ji-yoon." Hearing my real name fall from his lips sent a wave of cold fury through me. My hatred for him doubled in that moment. I stepped even closer, meeting his horrified gaze. "Yes, Soo-jin, it's me, or should I call you, Master Kim Soo-jin? Does that title suit you better?" His eyes traveled from my face to my body as if trying to reconcile the girl standing before him with the one he thought he had left broken. How is this possible?" I smirked, crossing my arms, tilting my head in mock pity. "You remember my face, don't you? That was before the surgery. But I'm still the same girl you and your friends tortured." His jaw clenched, his throat visibly tightening as he gulped, the shock settling in. He took a step back, stumbling over his words. So, this was all revenge. I shook my head, stepping closer so he could feel the weight of my words. "No, Soo-jin, not from me. It's from the girl who took her life because of you. You remember her, don't you? Soo-yin, she died on this day. My birthday." His face went pale, and he stumbled over his own thoughts. She died." I stared at him, my eyes filled with nothing but hatred. "Yes, Soo-jin, she's dead, because of you. And don't think this is the end. This was just the beginning. I will ruin you even more." His face twisted in horror, and he stood there, utterly broken, but I didn't wait for another word. I turned on my heel, my heart pounding with satisfaction, as J-Hope, Jimin, Jasper, and Jungkook followed me. As we walked away, I didn't look back. Soo-jin was nothing now, just another piece of my shattered past that I had finally taken control of. This was the end of his power over me, the beginning of his downfall. And the best part, the whole campus had seen it. The game had just begun. As we walked out, I swung my leg over the bike and revved the engine as we headed toward the one place I always went on this day, every year. My heart pounded with every mile we crossed. The closer we got to Soo-yin, the heavier the weight on my chest became. This was the day, every year. The cursed day. We pulled up to the columbarium, the familiar building looming in front of us, and I parked the bike. The others stayed back, giving me space, as they always did. They knew this was my moment, my ritual. I walked slowly toward her niche, my steps echoing through the quiet hall. My eyes locked on her picture, Soo-yin's gentle smile, forever frozen behind the glass, her ashes resting just beyond my reach. The years had done nothing to ease the ache. "Why, Soo-yin, why did you do it? Why did you save me and leave me to carry this alone?" Tears streamed down my face as I pressed my forehead against the cold surface of her memorial. The pain of her sacrifice never dulled. The image of her choosing to take her own life to protect me, to end the suffering, haunted me. I was still here, alive, but at what cost? She had saved me, but it had cost her everything. "I'm avenging you, for all of it. For what they did to us. And I won't stop until they're all on their knees, begging for mercy, right here in front of you and your family." As I stood there, lost in the pain, I heard soft footsteps approaching. Wiping my tears, I turned to see Soo-yin's mother and brother. Her mother stepped forward, her hand reaching out to touch my arm gently. "How are you, dear?" I forced a smile through the pain, my heart aching as I saw the grief still etched on her face after all these years. "I'm okay. How are you? How's your health?" She gave me a weak smile, her eyes still filled with tears. "I'm fine, don't worry about me. You've never forgotten to come here, all these years. Always on this day." I nodded, my throat tightening with emotion. How could I forget? This day was seared into my soul, the day I lost more than just a friend, it was the day I lost a part of myself. As evening settled in, the dim light outside barely reaching the windows, I pushed open the door, the quiet creak of the hinges echoing into the entryway. Jungkook was right behind me, his presence comforting yet silent, as we stepped inside the familiar warmth of our home. There they were, Namjoon, Suga, and 𝘏𝑗in, all standing with gentle smiles, a small cake with pale pink frosting and a single candle resting on the coffee table. The sight tugged at my heart, a bittersweet reminder of a day I wished I could forget. As I reached them, they all began singing the birthday song, their voices light and playful. I couldn't help but chuckle at their effort. Make a wish and blow the candle, 𝘏𝑗in said, nudging the cake closer to me with a soft smile. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the quiet settle in. My only wish, the same as every year, was for peace, for all of us. Come on, sit down. Namjoon guided me to the couch, his arm resting lightly around my shoulders. I cut a small piece, offering it first to 𝘏𝑗in, then to the others, who grinned as they took a bite. 𝘏𝑗in leaned forward, looking at me with that familiar, warm gaze. You've come so far, my little bird. We're all proud of you, he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. Namjoon reached for the knife, holding it up. All right, let me cut the cake for everyone else now. But as soon as the knife was in his hands, the rest of us jumped back, eyes wide. Suga and 𝘏𝑗in exchanged quick glances, and even Jungkook backed away, raising his hands as if in surrender. Namjoon blinked, looking confused. Why did you all jump? Jungkook, ever the playful one, chuckled. It's you with a knife. We all know what a disaster you can be in the kitchen. The room burst into laughter, and for the first time that day, I found myself laughing too, really laughing. The sound filled the air, and for a brief moment, everything felt normal. My brothers smiled, their faces lighting up as they watched me laugh, and I could see the relief in their eyes. For them, for just this moment, I was happy. Author's POV. Suga was buried in his work in high study room, suddenly his phone buzzed with an incoming call. He glanced at the screen and saw Jane's name flash in bright letters. Great, he muttered, picking up the phone. Sweetheart, where are you both? It's late, and you should be home by now. On the other end, Jane let out a nervous chuckle. Actually, Oppa, I need 100,000 won right now. Suga's eyebrows shot up in disbelief. Why do you need that? Just to have fun at the playground, Jane replied cheerfully, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. Before he could process her response, a loud voice echoed in the background. It's the police station, not your playground, Jane. Suga recognized the voice instantly. It was Jungkook, and the sheer panic in his tone, he closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Hang on the call, I'm coming. As Suga entered the police station, he spotted Jungkook slouched in a chair, arms crossed, and Jane and Jimin sitting beside him, both looking sheepish and a little out of place. When Jane caught sight of Suga, her face brightened, and she jumped up, running toward him. Oppa, she exclaimed, wrapping her arms around him in an enthusiastic hug. Suga staggered back slightly from the force of her embrace. Hey, what's going on? He asked, concern creeping into his voice. Before he could get a response, Jungkook interjected, rolling his eyes. First, let him pay the penalty, then you can hug him. Suga raised an eyebrow at Jungkook, trying to read the situation. What do you mean, penalty? Jane stepped back, a nervous laugh escaping her lips. We may have gotten pulled over for speeding on a bikes. Suga turned to the police officer who had been observing the group with an amused but tired expression. The officer explained, they didn't stop when we signaled them. Had to chase them for a few blocks. Suga sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose as he glanced at Jane and Jimin, who were now staring at the ground. I can't believe you guys, he said, trying to maintain a serious tone despite the absurdity of it all. What were you 12? Jimin piped up, we tried to stop Jane, but she was determined to keep going. Jane huffed, crossing her arms defensively. I just wanted to feel the rush, okay. You know how boring it is just sitting around. And don't forget you both forced me for ride. Suga shook his head, knowing he was losing the battle for reason. As they stepped out of the police station, the cool night air hit Suga like a splash of cold water. You three need to seriously reconsider your life choices, he said, his tone a mix of frustration and exasperation. Jungkook, trying to lighten the mood, said, hey, we stopped her, but she didn't listen to us. Jane shot Jungkook a look. Because you were acting like my dad. Nobody wants to listen to that. In a moment of mischief, Jungkook playfully grabbed Jane by the waist, lifting her off the ground like a child. You need to recycle, he teased, carrying her toward a large recycling bin. Put me down. This isn't funny. She laughed, her protests punctuated by giggles. Part 2. Jimin couldn't help but chuckle as he watched Jungkook plop Jane down gently next to the recycling bin, her legs dangling. What do you think you're doing? She exclaimed, half laughing, half annoyed. Recycling you, Jungkook quipped, stepping back to take a picture on his phone. Hey, I'm not trash, Jane protested, her cheeks flushed from embarrassment. Suga watched the scene unfold, shaking his head but unable to suppress a smile. You guys are going to be the death of me, he said, the seriousness of the situation melting away in the light of their playful antics. Jane's paw. After the whole messed up day and show everyone that I am fine, I walked quietly to my bedroom. As soon as I shut the door, the silence returned, heavy and suffocating, filling the room with memories I could never escape. I walked towards the mirror, my reflection staring back at me, haunted and tired. Slowly, I removed my shirt, my hands trembling slightly. My eyes drifted down to the burn mark just below my chest, the one I never allowed to be removed. It was a reminder, a scar that kept my past alive. I traced the rough edges of the scar with my fingers, feeling the way the skin had healed but never truly recovered. This was the one mark that remained, the only one I chose to keep after the surgeries in the USA, where my brothers had sent me to heal. The doctors had erased most of the evidence of my suffering, every bruise and scar wiped away as if they had never existed, but I had refused to let go of this one. I needed it, needed the reminder of what they had done to me. To us. Flashback. I was screaming in pain, the heat of the hair curler searing into my skin as I felt the metal press against my arm. Woo Bin removed the curler, a cruel smile dancing on his lips as he tossed it aside like it was nothing more than a toy. I was thrown to the ground, my eyes darted around, landing on Soo Yeon, who was huddled in the corner of the classroom. The sight of her made my heart race. Her arms were covered in burns, skin raw and blistered, a mirror of the pain I felt inside. Soo Jin, the leader of this merciless group, stepped closer. Ji-yoon, he called my name, his tone dripping with malice. If you both again forget to call me master, then next time it will be your face beneath the curler, and don't you dare report us. If you do, I'll upload that video of your best friend on social media. My heart skipped a beat, a cold shiver racing down my spine. Their laughter filled the air again, and then they left me there, abandoned and broken. I looked down at my hands, which were now marred with burns. It was not the first time I had been hurt, and deep down, I knew it wouldn't be the last. As I sat there, trembling, Soo Yeon slowly approached me, her wide, tear-filled eyes locked onto mine. Are you okay? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. That question pierced my heart the most. I forced a nod, covering my burned arm with my sleeve to hide the evidence of my suffering. But inside, I was screaming, my heart breaking. At the sight of her tears. She was crying for me, for the both of us, and it made the pain of my burns feel insignificant compared to the weight of her fear and sadness. I entered the small house, the familiar scent of home greeting me as I stepped inside, my three brothers deep in discussion. Namjoon, Suga, and Seokjin were busy men, constantly hustling to establish their new business after our parents passed away, leaving 5 children to fend for ourselves. I wiped my tears quickly, not wanting them to see my pain. It was hard enough to watch them struggle without adding to their burden. I knew they were working tirelessly to provide for us, but I couldn't share my troubles with them, not now. Not when Soo Jin's father was a powerful businessman, untouchable in their eyes. They wouldn't stand a chance against him or his gang, and I couldn't bear the thought of putting them in danger. So, I walked away from the bustling kitchen and into my room, closing the door softly behind me. The world outside felt heavy, filled with memories of what once was. Jungkook used to be my bright spots in high school. Those were simpler times, before everything fell apart. But when he received scholarships to study in the USA, it felt like the ground had shifted beneath me. I reached for the long sleeves and high neck tops I had stashed away, my summer clothes now feeling suffocating. No one seemed to notice, lost in their own worlds, and I was thankful for it. Days turned into weeks, and today I decided to stay home, curling up in my room with the curtains drawn. But the quiet was shattered when 𝘏𝘉 burst into my room, his expression a mixture of shock and concern. I sat up, my heart racing at the sight of him. What's wrong? I asked, my voice trembling. Say Yeon, she attempted suicide, he blurted out, the words hanging in the air like a death sentence. The room spun around me, and I felt like I had been punched in the gut. What? I gasped, disbelief flooding my mind. She jumped from the school building, Suga said, his voice strained. They say it was because of bullying. She's in the hospital now. Tears streamed down my face, the dam breaking as I realized the gravity of the situation. I had tried to shield myself from the pain of my own existence, but now it felt like the world was collapsing around me. I should have been there for her, I cried, my heart aching for my friend who had endured so much. 𝘏𝑈𝐤𝐸 walked over to me and sat beside me on the edge of the bed. He reached out and touched my arm gently, trying to offer solace. But as his fingers made contact with my skin, I couldn't help but hiss in pain, a sharp reminder of my scars. His expression shifted instantly from concern to confusion as he processed my reaction. "What's wrong?" he asked, furrowing his brow. "Did I hurt you?" Before I could respond, 𝘏𝑈𝐤𝐸's gaze dropped to my arm. He noticed the fabric of my long sleeves bunched awkwardly, and without asking for permission, he reached for the cuff and pulled it up. The moment the material slipped past my elbow, his eyes widened in shock. "Ji-hoon," he breathed, his voice barely a whisper. The reality of my injuries settled heavily between us, like a thunderclap in the silence. As the days turned into a blur of grief and anger, my brothers couldn't bear to see me in pain any longer. After discovering the full extent of my suffering, they decided it was time to take action. Namjoon, 𝘏𝑈𝐤𝐸, and Seokjin confronted the school administration, demanding justice for the bullying and torment we had endured. They filed a lawsuit against those responsible, but the outcome was a bitter disappointment. The worst they could do was transfer the bullies to another school, a temporary solution. I could feel my brothers' frustration and anger. They wanted to protect me, to shield me from further pain. I remained in my hospital bed, my body battered and broken, but it was my heart that felt the heaviest burden. 2 months passed after 𝐿 attempt to escape the pain, and I had clung to hope throughout her coma, praying for her to wake up. I sat on the edge of my hospital bed, feeling numb and lost, when the doctor delivered the news. My heart shattered when I learned she had passed away and it was my birthday. With trembling hands, I clutched the crumpled piece of paper she had left behind. It was her last letter to me, the final words she had written before the darkness took her. As I unfolded it, tears streamed down my cheeks, blurring the words on the page. Blank. Dear Ji-hoon, I'm so sorry for what you're going through. I've tried to stay strong, but I can see how much this has hurt you. You've always been there for me, and I wish I could have done the same for you. I made this decision not because I wanted to leave you behind but because I wanted you to survive. Please live your life to the fullest, even if it's hard right now. Remember the good times we had, the laughter we shared, and the dreams we chased together. I hope you find happiness, even if I'm not there to share it with you. You deserve to be free from pain. Don't let them win. Fight back, Ji-hoon. Be the person I always knew you could be. I love you, and I will always be with you in spirit. With all my love. 𝐿 blank. The letter trembled in my hands as I read the last lines. She had sacrificed everything so I could have a chance at life, and now I was left without her. The tears fell harder, and I couldn't contain the sobs that racked my body. I had been in the hospital for weeks. My brothers, filled with worry and anger, made a big decision. They sold their stocks to send me to the USA to live with Jungkook. They believed it was the best way for me to heal, both physically and emotionally. When I arrived in America, everything felt different. I underwent treatment for my burn marks, and soon, I was ready for surgery on my face. Standing in front of the mirror afterward, I traced the smooth skin where scars used to be. I was ready to start fresh and become someone new. Living with Jungkook was comforting. He was supportive and filled my days with laughter. Then I meet his friends Jasper, J-Hope and Jimin who helped me grow stronger. They taught me how to fight, how to shoot a bow and arrow, how to ride a bike, and how to control a horse. Each lesson made me feel more powerful and confident. As I sat alone in my room, I thought about what Seokjin and his friends had done to me. I wanted revenge. I could picture their faces changing from cocky to terrified when they realized I wasn't the same girl they had bullied. I was Jane now, stronger and more determined than ever. I wouldn't stop until they begged for mercy. I was ready to make them pay for everything. Flashback end. As the memories faded, I lay down on my bed, my heart heavy with everything I had endured. I reached for the drawer beside my nightstand and pulled it open. Inside was a collection of items, but my eyes were immediately drawn to a small, worn puzzle piece. It was the only thing that had ever brought me a sense of peace in the chaos of my life. With the puzzle piece clutched tightly in my hand, I lay back down, allowing my mind to drift. As I fell into a gentle sleep, the morning light spilled through the curtains, casting warm rays across my room. I stirred awake, stretching beneath the covers. As I rubbed the sleep from my eyes, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I reached for it, my heart quickening as I saw Jimin's name flashing on the screen. A knot formed in my stomach as I opened the message. Seokjin had a car accident after what happened at the university. He's in a coma. My breath caught in my throat, and my eyes widened in disbelief. I wasn't shocked by the news. In fact, a part of me felt vindicated. After everything he had done to me and 𝐿, the thought of him suffering, even in a hospital bed, brought a twisted satisfaction. But it wasn't over yet. He couldn't just escape this easily. I wanted him to wake up, to feel the weight of his actions pressing down on him. I wanted him to beg for mercy, to understand the pain he had inflicted on me. He had to live with the knowledge that I was still here, that I would not be silenced or broken. 𝘏𝘌𝘈𝘔𝘌. I stood frozen outside the ICU, the harsh fluorescent lights flickering above me. The long flight from the USA had drained every ounce of energy from my body, but the news we just received jolted me awake. The doctor emerged, his expression grave. My heart sank as he delivered the news. Soo-jin was in a coma. I felt a sharp pain slice through my chest, like a physical blow. My hands trembled at my sides as tears welled in my eyes. The world around me blurred. I looked over at my mother, her hands trembling as she pressed them to her face. My father stood next to her, jaw clenched, his usual calm demeanor shattered. It's all because of her, I muttered under my breath, anger bubbling up within me. Jane, that name burned in my throat like acid. The girl who had turned our lives upside down, who had somehow ensnared my brother in her web. I'll make her pay, I whispered, a cold resolve hardening in my heart. The thought of Jane made my blood boil. I won't spare her, I will tear her apart. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself in front of the mirror. I had cut my hair even shorter, mimicking that sleek Korean style that framed my face perfectly. The strands fell just above my forehead, giving me a bold look. Beside me stood Noah, his expression a mix of concern and understanding. Are you really going to do this? He asked, his voice low, almost a whisper. I nodded, my resolve hardening as I adjusted my collar, the fabric smooth against my skin. She will face what she did to my brother. Or even worse, I said, my voice steady but filled with an undercurrent of anger. Noah sighed, running a hand through his own messy hair. I just don't want you to get hurt in the process. I'm going back to America soon, you know that. I turned to him, my heart sinking slightly at the thought of losing another friend. I know, I replied softly, my eyes meeting his. But take care of yourself, okay? And come to visit when you can. I'll never go back to the USA again, not if it means leaving my family behind. His face softened, the sadness evident in his eyes. He stepped closer, pulling me into a tight embrace. I could feel the warmth of his body against mine, a reminder of the bond we had shared throughout our time together. Jane's paw. The sun hung low in the sky as I pedaled my bike faster towards university. My heart raced not just from the speed but from the anxiety of being late. Today was crucial. I had a presentation, and I couldn't afford to mess it up. As I approached the campus, I spotted the familiar entrance and felt a surge of relief. But just as I prepared to park my bike, a sleek black motorcycle appeared out of nowhere, barreling towards me. My eyes widened in horror, and instinct kicked in. I slammed on the brakes, skidding to a stop just inches from his bike. Time seemed to slow as I stared at the stranger in front of me, his bike roaring to a halt with a thundering growl. I quickly pulled off my helmet. The rider mirrored my actions, removing his helmet with an effortless grace that caught me off guard. My gaze fell on him, taking in the tousled dark hair that framed his face, accentuating his sharp jawline and piercing eyes. There was something captivating about him, a magnetic aura that made my heart skip a beat. But confusion crept in, I didn't recognize him at all. What the hell, I blurted out, frustration bubbling to the surface. Do you always ride like a maniac? He chuckled softly, the sound surprisingly charming, though it only fueled my irritation. I could ask you the same thing, he replied, his voice smooth and steady.